Let me say this as brutally as possible. If you need a press secretary to explain every hour why the ceasefire is still a ceasefire, then the ceasefire is already dying. That is the image I cannot shake tonight. Not the podium, not the statements, not the victory language. The image I cannot shake is the split screen. On one side, Donald Trump's team saying the Iranians backed down. The military objectives were achieved. The Strait of Hormuz is reopening. The red lines remain intact, and America is operating from a position of strength. On the other side, reports of strikes, reports of drones, reports of air defenses going active. Reports of Beirut taking fresh punishment. Reports that Iran is calling this a direct violation of the understanding. And reports that the central issues were never resolved in the first place. That split screen is the whole video. Because once the words and the images stop matching, you are no longer in the realm of diplomacy. You are in the realm of narrative warfare, where every spokesman is racing to define reality before the next missile does it for them. And tonight, reality looks deeply unstable. The way I see it, this crisis is now being driven by three collisions. The first collision is between public terms and secret terms. Iranian officials are acting as if the framework was plain, public, explicit, and already understood. They're saying the ceasefire package included non-aggression in Lebanon, respect for Iranian airspace, continued enrichment rights, and wider commitments across the region. They are presenting Trump as the man who accepted that framework and is now trying to rewrite it after the fact. Trump's team is telling the opposite story. They are saying Iran's original 10-point proposal was unacceptable, discarded, and replaced by a different, modified basis for negotiation that aligned more closely with Washington's own demands. In their telling, nothing fundamental changed on enrichment. Nothing fundamental changed on American red lines. And media coverage got the whole thing wrong. Now stop and think about how insane that is. The ceasefire is not being threatened by ambiguity around the edges. The ceasefire is ambiguity. The second collision is between diplomacy and the battlefield. If Lebanon is in the arrangement, then strikes there look like sabotage. If Lebanon is outside the arrangement, then the White House may think it can keep the diplomatic track alive, while its partner applies pressure elsewhere. But that is not how this works politically. Because if Iran sees Lebanon as part of the package, then every bomb there lands twice, once on the target, and once on the credibility of the deal. The same thing applies to Iranian airspace. Tehran is saying a drone intrusion already crossed a red line. The White House is projecting calm. But calm does not matter if the other side is building a ledger of violations. This is why ceasefires fail long before they officially collapse. They fail in the interpretation stage. They fail when each side starts archiving proof that the other side never intended to honor the arrangement as understood. And that leads to the third collision, the most dangerous one of all, victory language colliding with unresolved leverage. Trump clearly wants the headline that he forced movement. He wants the image of the strongman president who set the deadline, raised the threat level, bent Iran, and emerged with both peace and dominance. But if Iran still believes it can squeeze traffic through Hormuz, preserve enrichment, insist on a broader halt to regional attacks, and publicly accuse Washington of fraud, then the leverage was not erased. It was redistributed. That matters because leaders become reckless when they have already declared themselves winners. Once you sell mission accomplished to your audience, every later concession looks like weakness. Every later clarification looks like retreat. Every later admission that the terms were messy looks like humiliation. So the temptation becomes obvious. Talk louder. Insist harder. Blame the media. Claim the other side secretly accepted what it publicly denies. Pretend the battlefield is confirming your story, even when the facts are still moving. That is what I think we are watching right now. Look at the briefing. Room moments that matter. Reporters ask whether the strait is open. The answer is not yes, fully. The answer is expectation. Monitoring, movement, watching, assessing. That means leverage is still alive. Reporters ask who is bombing if explosions are being heard in Iranian cities. The answer is not immediate certainty. That means command of the narrative has moved faster than command of the facts. Reporters ask about Lebanon. The answer is that Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. But Tehran and its aligned messaging keep saying the exact opposite. That means the battlefield itself is now an argument over contract language. This is not a peace process. This is a collision between incompatible maps. One map is the White House map. On that map, Iran blinked, the United States imposed discipline, the pressure worked, the waterway reopens. NATO can be bullied later, and the president stands at the center of a historic military and diplomatic success. The other map is the Iranian map. On that map, Washington accepted a framework under pressure, then immediately tried to relabel it, while Allied attacks continued, while airspace was tested, while public statements denied terms that had already been sold to the world. You cannot run both maps at once forever. Eventually, a ship gets stopped. Eventually, a strike lands somewhere politically sensitive. Eventually, a militia moves. Eventually, a reporter asks a question that cannot be spun. Eventually, one side decides that public humiliation is worse than escalation. That is the danger of this moment. Not just that the ceasefire could fail, but that both sides have now built identities around opposite explanations of why it should not fail. Trump's team needs the public to believe he dictated the outcome. Iran needs its public to believe it did not surrender. That leaves almost no room for honest clarification. And without honest clarification, every next incident becomes a loyalty test. Did you honor the deal? Did you lie about the deal? Did you accept my terms? Did you fake my consent? Did you close the waterway? Did you violate the airspace? Did Lebanon count or not? Did enrichment survive or not? None of those questions are academic. Every one of them sits next to missiles, sanctions, oil flows, and regional armed groups. So here is my biggest takeaway. The final warning from Iran is not just a warning about violations. It is a warning about narrative theft. Tehran is saying you do not get to bomb, deny, relabel, and then call that peace. You do not get to market a unilateral rewrite as a mutual agreement. You do not get to tell the world a crisis is over while the proof of instability is still arriving by the hour. And if that is how Washington keeps playing this, then the real danger is not simply military escalation. The real danger is a collapse in shared reality. Because once two governments are no longer arguing about compliance inside the same agreement, they are effectively operating inside two different wars. That is where the next phase begins, not with a grand declaration. With a discrepancy, one more strike that doesn't count, one more drone that wasn't ours, one more briefing that clarifies what the other side says was already settled, one more ship that turns around, one more city that hears explosions while politicians insist the ceasefire is holding. So note, I do not think the main story tonight is that a final warning was issued. The main story is that the warning exposes something bigger. This ceasefire may not be collapsing because one side broke a clear deal. It may be collapsing because there was never one uncontested version of the deal to begin with. And when the words are unstable, the weapons start finishing the sentences.